My guest today is writer and director Elizabeth Peace. She was born and raised in a Nigerian home in East and Southeast London, and the motivated filmmaker continuously seeks out ways in which to improve, learn, and develop from others. And she's also an actress. She's energetic and always prepared to go the extra mile and has performed at a number of venues in London. Now, Elizabeth is currently working as a freelance creative with projects in theater and film while being a part-time caregiver. Now, her short film, The Golden Boy, is her debut as a film director and ready to take on the multiple film festivals. And this is one film, ladies and gentlemen, everyone needs to keep an eye on. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome actress, writer, and director Elizabeth Peace and her short film, The Golden Boy, to the show. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, when did you get interested in acting?
Oh, I mean that was a lifelong ambition, really. That's been with me since I can remember. Yeah, I've always had a love for performing, I think since I was about 5 or 6. And yeah, my mum kind of geared me into it and kept me going on it. So yeah.
Did you take acting lessons? Are you more theater trained?
Yeah. So I took we have here like a bunch of young companies that run through the country. So I did the National Youth Theatre. I did a few young companies up and down. I did some in Manchester whilst I was at school up there. Yeah, so I've been very lucky in that respect. Had a very fun times in those sessions. Yeah.
So in certain projects where you were in front of the camera, were you paying a lot of attention to the director, which is why you wanted to become one?
You know what? I did not see directing as an actual role. Like I saw it as like a facilitator kind of person, but I didn't think I would ever step into it. I'm gonna be honest. It wasn't a career path I ever saw for myself. I enjoy receiving notes, not giving them. um, yeah, I think it was. Do you know what? It just interested me a bit, but I didn't think I would eventually step into those shoes because it is a huge responsibility. But I love being in front of the camera and behind it. Yeah, it's taught me a lot.
Well, also being a writer, did the writing kind of push you behind the camera?
Yeah, I'd say it did. I'd say because I took quite a vigorous degree, was very much just writing essays. I found sort of solace in writing for fiction, and through that, then I kind of found a voice, and then I used that voice for directing eventually down the line. But yeah, I would say that my writing has been kind of like a focal point for me to focus on what I like and what I enjoy, what kind of stories I like, and then being able to tell them to others has been a huge skill that I've learned and built since I was at school. And now with the Golden Boy, I'm having that kind of fruitful kind of wow, it's actually coming to fruition.
Well,
All of
let's
that.
talk. Well, let's talk about this brand new film, The Golden Boy. Is this based on a personal story in your life?
Yes, it is. It's based off my relationship with my younger brother, who I'm a carer for. He is autistic and was diagnosed, I think, I'd say 7 or 8 years old. Um, and it was kind of like a journey of self-discovery with my family, figuring out how we can support him to the best of our ability and learning about the condition as well, because it's lifelong and it's something that we're all going to live with my brother anyway. So um, it's kind of just the story for me was very much kind of a learning how to love again, learning to love that process again. Um, it was quite an emotional time on set sometimes, because a lot of it was quite mirroring my life very close. So yeah, at times it was a little struggle. Sometimes I had to be like, oh, I had to step back a bit and let my AD kind of cover some of the aspects of the filming, but um, it was a very personal story. I think my entire family were part of the process as well. Like my sister did the catering, like we used our actual house. Like it's you see the film is very much a personal journey for all of us.
Your film, and one of the things that I love about the Golden Boy, for those that have an autistic child or someone that is neurodivergent, you covered every aspect of that I could even think of or find in this film of how people react to having a child that's autistic or a teacher that's not sure if the child is autistic or not, or do they have a learning disability, or do they not, or are they just delayed in learning. You covered every single thing. But you also covered something that I was very familiar with. In one of the early scenes, the mother has invited the pastor over to pray over Michael, who is the child, and to bring healing and deliverance from his lack of communication skills. Number one, why did you create this scene? Number two, isn't spirituality very strong among the Nigerian culture?
Yeah, yeah. I think for me personally, I know that a lot of people tend to turn to faith when they're in times of struggle and wanting to find some clarity and some answers in that whether it be church or synagogue or any kind of place of worship. You find that kind of moments to ask questions and to be able to learn and understand who you are, and then navigating that. And I think as a Nigerian and specifically as an Igbo person, I feel like for us it is definitely part of our culture to delve into our why certain things are the way they are, to look at God and to ask, why is these things happening, praying and fasting and deliverance are all kind of moments and are part of our culture that we look to when we're struggling. And rightly so, I think faith is a very strong thing. I think even if you don't have one at all, it is a very human thing to look inward about how you're living and how others see you. Um, and sometimes it can also be, I would say, a detriment in other ways as humans. We have to sometimes just kind of look at it as a tool and have it there for us, but then also just knowing when to put it to the side and to look at facts and to look at scientific facts or biological facts, whatever it may be. I think it's just you have to learn how to balance that as a human. And that scene, it was important for me anyway that it wasn't like a caricature or anything like that, or an insult or blasphemy or anything like that, because it
No,
is very.
no, not at all. Because what and I loved this one element of the cinematography in that scene where the camera is focusing upon the picture of Jesus over the shoulder of the pastor. It's clear, and then it brings the pastor into view, taking the audience from that point down into what's about to happen in the room.
Mm,
And I just thought it was just a simple move, but it's very profound in its way. And within that scene, the mother is a bit stunned when her daughter Lizzie calls her out and says, you don't want to deal with him anymore.
mm.
And you really brought out the real emotion and real situations that many families deal with today in this film.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was a very much a reflection of the times that autistic people kind of go through and their families. I think a lot of questions are posed on them about what's going on with them, and how can we solve this, or how can we get through this, and all this kind of thing, and all this kind of talk. And in one way, yeah, I understand, and in other ways I'm like, well, it is part of their life. It is them. It is their being, very essence of them. And for others around them to get accustomed to that can be a bit hard, and it's that again is understandable. It takes time. um a diagnosis doesn't mean like the end for it. It's for a lot of families. Sometimes it's like, so who do I turn to? Who do I talk to? What do I do from here? And I feel like this film, it takes a time to address those questions for some families, particularly those that are black, brown, on the margins of society, who don't have the money or the funds to look around and ask specialists and all these kind of things. They can't afford that. They can't do that route. They often have to look at free or free advice or free support, and sometimes that can be hit and miss. um so it's about really just taking the time to look at who it is that is autistic, or who is like neurodivergent in your family, and ask them, what do they want to do, what do they like to do, is the main thing. Like, so for us and our cast, particularly with TJ, our main actor who plays Michael, for him it was dinosaurs. He loved dinosaurs. So we flipped the script to accommodate him and to focus on his love of dinosaurs. And through that, we got him on set loving to do the things that he wanted to do on set. And mum was always there, don't get me wrong. But it's important, I think, for us to learn, I guess, as humans, to learn how to flip the script when it comes to other people who are going through that kind of diagnosis, and accommodate them. And sometimes accommodating them, you out of that you get a better kind of experience. Yeah.
Well, the other thing that I noticed is the dialogue. The dialogue was, I mean, every line of dialogue was very important. There was no wasted dialogue. Every sentence meant something. There was an emotion of each line spoken from a person that may not understand, one that's being direct, one asking a question. There was not one word wasted in this film. And to me, it made the film flow. It made it to where the audience paid attention to every scene and to every word spoken. It was brilliant.
Thank you. I think that was a testament to our probably our execs, and just the bunch of people I asked to read the script as well. I think we all understood the story, and it was just kind of trying to streamline it as much as possible. So like you said, that no words and nothing is kind of frivolous or not not important for audiences to catch. Um, I think that's just the nature of short films as well. Can't waste time.
Wow. Well, you're right about that. And I haven't seen a whole lot of short films where there's too much dialogue. You know as well as anybody, when it comes to short films, if there is dialogue, it's got to matter. Then you have the cinematography, you have the camera movement, which, the actors are half the story, the camera movement is the other half.
Mm.
And yours blends well. But I want to go to that scene in the living room when the pastor's there, because, when I watched it, I believe prayer works, but many use it in a way to feel that they are doing something, while in some way, for some, not everyone, avoiding actually doing something. But Lizzie tells her mother she needs to get Michael some help. Now, I looked at this film a bit differently than others, because the Bible says faith without works is dead. You can still pray, but one must do, because a sign of stepping out, it's just a simple sign of stepping out in faith. And Lizzie, uh, and this is what I loved about Lizzie's character. She does that very thing in this film. She steps out in faith to help Michael.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it. I think it's definitely. I think those characters, particularly the mum and Lizzie character, they're at odds at the beginning about how to approach Michael's diagnosis. They both care for him deeply. There's clear love and clear devotion to the care that they give. Whether it's mum being care of the home, paying the bills, bringing the food, those are critical things. Shelter, that is a critical thing for a family. And then sister Lizzie being that companion for Michael, being the steady force of going to school with him every morning, and helping him with his homework, and being his ear and his advisor for any sort of thing that could happen as siblings. And then also as a carer, I think both are very pivotal roles in the family. Um, and with that devotion and love comes a sense of wanting to help Michael in a way that's useful for him. With mum, it's prayer and it's devotion and sacrifice in that way. And then for Lizzie, it's more of an actioning. It's more of a, I need to make others, his teachers, whoever his friends, whoever he's around, to know that he's not any different from them. He's autistic, yes. That's his very being and his very nature. That's not something he can just put to the side or put on a shelf to to rot away while he goes about his life. That's not how it works. And both of them are eager to do what they can to help him. And it's important, I think, for families whoever gets to see this, that it's about finding that connection between the two, and learning that it's not all about one way of doing things and then being tunnel vision in that way. But it's about, okay, if this is not working, let's try this. Does Michael like this? Does the neurodivergent person like this? If it's not working, then keep it going and keep it moving on. It's just like any other method. Like if I was learning maths, if it wasn't working one way, let's try a different way. Then you're still learning the maths, you're still learning and flourishing in that way, but you're finding other methods and other trials to go about your life. And I think that's important. I think what the Golden Boy teaches is that it's not about one way of thinking or about one way of dealing with something. Um, it's about finding that balance, particularly when it comes to family. Because I know we all have strong family members out there who believe that it's their way or the highway.
Well, yeah, and I like, and you brought something up that as I went back to remember to think about the film, Lizzie's doing what she feels needs to be done. The mother got mad because she perceived Lizzie's attitude as like, oh, I'm not doing anything, but I am the one putting a roof over your head and providing food and resources. And that was the mother's reaction is so normal as to what so many people would have done and said. And so I completely understood that. When I watched the film, and this is a question perfectly for you, how important is it for many people to understand that there is a thing called invisible disabilities and that the community of neurodivergence is growing?
Yeah, yeah. I think more and more we're finding that society doesn't understand what disability looks like. I think for a lot of people, disability, it just has to be physical, and otherwise, I don't acknowledge it. Which I think we're learning more and more as a society as we're moving on that that's not always the case. And accessibility, and when it comes to public spaces and things like that, are becoming more and more kind of accommodating to the fact that invisible disabilities do exist. Um, Deaf people, blind people, they look, everyone looks different. And I think that particularly when it comes to neurodivergent peoples, they're having almost the hardest fight for people to understand what's going on in their brain, which isn't, again, something that we can't see. I think that it's almost a struggle. It's definitely a lifelong struggle, and something that's important for people to understand is that when a neurodivergent person finds out that they are neurodivergent, they're also going through the new circumstances that others around them are also going through. They're also having to understand how to tell someone, yeah, I'm autistic. I need to figure this thing out myself as well. I think I need my, documents on yellow paper right now. Let's try that. Or I have ADHD. I need to have like a fidget in my hand to talk to you, so that I'm focusing on you, and I'll just have this fidget in my hand right now. It's nothing important, but it's just so that I can focus on you. But these small things that they too are trying to find out what works for them, as much as where us two are trying to understand. Typical people are learning how to understand them. So yeah, I think it's definitely a journey on both ends, and one, I feel like society slowly is getting there. It's slowly getting there. There was probably 50 years ago when there wasn't words to describe
Well,
what we're.
it's funny because, and I don't mean funny, haha. I interviewed, I had a guest once who was autistic.
Mm,
And what he wanted, the message that he wanted to convey was that this is a new normal in society.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
We're not just this little group that no one understands. Now, from what I understand from medical research, 1 in every 8 children will be diagnosed as autistic.
Mm,
So he was right. It's becoming the new normal.
mm,
I just recently talked with 3-time Oscar-winning filmmaker Mark Jonathan Harris, because he'd wrote a new book, and one of the short stories was about an autistic uh, child, and he made a statement that if you see one person with autism, you've only seen one person with autism,
mm,
because not everyone is the same. Every single autistic person or neurodivergent person is different in their own way, and you
mm,
can't treat each one the same.
mm. Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree with that statement. I think we have to look at it as individual as you would see a fingerprint. And that, you know, just as when you meet someone new, you meet in someone new, just ask them those questions that you would meet someone new. What is your name? What hobbies do you like? It's simple conversation. I think people overthink it sometimes as well. Like, suddenly I have to think of extra things for this person, but it's just like, no, you don't. It's just genuine conversation is what they need.
Well, yeah, and this, we live in a world where the human race is thinking way too fast.
Mm,
They they jump to judgment. They jump to conclusions. I mean, look, if they're on social media, how many people are so fast in pulling the trigger to make a comment on somebody's post that they don't even know? And but and I think with those that are neurodivergent, we as a society need to slow down. If we meet one in person out in public, you do not have judgment, have understanding. Sometimes if we see parents dealing with a child, and you look over at them, you're like, man, that kid's unruly. Maybe they need to discipline that kid. Well, maybe that kid has autism. Maybe you don't
mm,
understand that maybe he's having an episode because he's frustrated and can't communicate what he wants to say. So I think we need to have more empathy in society more than ever.
mm. Yeah, I'd agree. It's it's a strong. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that the amount of times that I for instance was out with my brother, which often people would think I was his parent because of the way I would, navigate the spaces with him. And I'd be like, no, I'm just his sister, but okay. And yeah, I think, you get those second glances a lot. You get, for instance, that they're stimming, and stimming can take any form. It can take nail biting, it can take hair, fidgeting, it can take waving your arms in the air, it can take spinning around. Like, so there's a number of things. I think us humans, we forget that stimming can look very different for every person, and everyone goes through a version of their own stimming. um so when I was out with my brother, sometimes he would be stimming, and that's just how he navigates spaces sometimes. You'd get the second glances, you'd get what's going on over there, like you'd get, there's those kind of questions. We're like, no, it's fine. It's just dimming. It's fine. Like it could stop soon, or it could stop, later down the line. It doesn't really matter. It's not really hurting you or hurting your space. As long as it's not, physically harming you, then I don't see why anyone would be that concerned. um, but I understand, when things aren't quote unquote normal looking, people tend to look, and hey, like, you can look all you want, it's not exactly going to change circumstances of someone being autistic. But I think it's just about, like you say, having a touch of empathy, being like, oh, okay, maybe they are autistic, or maybe they're just having a moment of, I don't know, I'm just going to navigate my own space and keep it moving. I think a lot of people are just not used to that anymore. They kind of just want to make a comment. um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I also love the way that you portrayed the teacher in this film. Every line from the teacher is exactly what any teacher in her position would say. Also, with Lizzie, that is exactly what most parents would say and react to.
Mm.
Because
Yeah.
it's a protection. It's a protection mode that they go in for their child.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I think many a parent or many a carer have had that kind of conversation with a teacher, because you almost have to let go a sense of autonomy when you do give the child over to a teacher, because they're with them for almost 8 to 10 hours of a day, 5 times a week. So they might have a better, like, they could have a better opinion or a more holistic opinion on something that's happening, which some teachers tend to sometimes overstep, and some are like, well, I need to address something with you, and I'm not too sure how to do it, which is the position that we have with Miss Foster, played by Isabella. I feel like it's definitely a conversation I've had many a time, and I feel like lots of parents would have had it as well, in many different variations. Might not just be with an autistic child, but maybe it would be with a child that's having a bit of issues in classes, and navigating a bully or something like that. It comes in many forms. And some teachers are, I think, particularly with Miss Foster, it's difficult for her, particularly because she's like a new teacher, kind of not really understanding the language to use without upsetting someone. So she's teetering on, on eggshells, with her conversation, and you see that responses with Lizzie are, straight to the point, straightforward. Like, what is it you're trying to say here? I don't need fluffy language. I need you to get to the point, which some teachers are good at doing and some aren't. And I feel like it's just learning how to do that, as you upskill as a teacher. Yeah, I recommend a lot of
Yeah,
teachers.
it's funny because you are absolutely right. When it comes to teachers, I think it comes down to experience.
Mm,
If they're more direct, they're probably older. If they're younger, they're probably walking on eggshells because they don't want to get into an argument and they don't want to offend the parent or the legal guardian when it comes to the child.
mm.
So you had the teacher play that part perfectly.
Yeah, yeah. It's always better. I think when we were reading the script, we definitely wanted to lean into the fact that she is a newbie. She's quite green in that world anyway. She's a great teacher, fantastic teacher. The kids love her. And they did on set. They really did love her. She was given little classes, but when it came to Michael and Michael's situation, it was definitely something that she hadn't navigated before. And a lot of teachers are in that kind of that realm. They go out and they learn the theory, but the practical, they're unsure how to do it, and you can't teach that, unfortunately.
That's very true. Well, I found this film full of love. I saw a common thread within the story of the Golden Boy. There's an element of faith on both sides. One using faith, praying for an answer, the other side literally doing something about it. One side, the mother, the pastor, A couple of the others pray for Michael to be healed from his lack of communication skills. Then Lizzie, like I said, is determined to help Michael. Again, nothing but a step of faith. But in the end, this is where I looked at it as this thread being tied together. Michael speaks, and prayer was answered, but so was Lizzie's efforts. So all these elements came together in The Golden Boy. Again, a perfect film.
Thank you, bless you. I think, yeah, I think it was important for us to not end on a note, which often is the case with stories like this, or end on a note that's quite depressing. Quite, it's still in that dark space. I feel like a lot of families would appreciate the fact that at the end we do see some light, we do see some uh, new gain in that, and in that journey. I feel like it's only one step. I think it was important for us to film in a way that it may or may not have been speech that was spoken at that point, but it was intention behind that moment of Michael was stepping forward. He was actually taking autonomy in that moment and presenting his project. It's something important to him that he wanted to show, to an audience full of parents and carers, which he's never done before. So it's definitely the intention behind it, more so than just speaking words. That was important for us to film as well, because like for many films that come across this kind of typical themes of autism and young children and things like that nature, particularly when it comes to marginalized communities portraying the characters, it's often left in a space of nothing's going to work, it's not going to work, let's just leave it at that. And films can be they navigate that space quite negatively. Whereas with The Golden Boy, we wanted to leave audiences with a sense of hope that the journey is not just like negative or depressing or anything of that nature. It's definitely just steps, and in those steps you gain more, you learn more, you learn how to navigate spaces better, as an autistic person. So yeah.
But you ended this film perfectly, and this film also delivers something to the audience. It should, I should say, it delivers something to every parent that may be dealing with a child with a disability. It brings them hope. This film shows them that perseverance will eventually pay off. Just stay the course. Keep doing what you're doing. Maybe find those things that you see that are working, because with every autistic person or neurodivergent that may not be fully verbal, I know it's harder, but they're looking just for those moments of breakthrough, the moments of where hope is coming through, and your film does this perfectly. And I'm gonna go out on a limb here, because The Golden Boy, this is going to be an award-winning film.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. Well, fingers crossed. Go with me. I'll take it. I mean, I hope so. I think, we're hoping and praying that it reaches the right audiences that it needs to reach. That's what's important to me. I think when I first started this journey, I didn't see a film out there that gave me some clarity, some direction, something. I didn't really see anything out there, particularly when it came to Black families. I didn't see it. So I'm hoping The Golden Boy is that for others. Yeah, and I'll take that to the bank. Thanks, Ward.
That's it. Well, so how many film festivals have you submitted to?
At the moment, we're just over 45. We've been selected to 2. We have our world premiere coming in a few days at Sunderland Shorts Film Festival, which is great. It's FIFA qualifying, which is great. And we have had one other selection, that's Academy Award qualifying as well. Haven't announced it yet, but you get the exclusive here. We got one. Yeah, so we're starting off on a good leg. I feel, yeah.
So okay, so you've submitted. Have you been accepted by any of the Oscar qualifying festivals yet?
Just the one.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Martha's Vineyard, African American Film Festival, which we're excited about. But yeah, everything else is just undecided. We're yet to hear back.
Well,
Um,
well, one thing your film proves, prayer works, and who knows, prayer may bring that Oscar qualification.
maybe I'll keep praying.
Well, all right. Now this film is very new. Has an audience seen this film yet?
Not publicly, no, just friends and family have seen it, and obviously cast and crew.
Okay,
Yeah,
so let me ask you this one. So what do you hope audience will take away after seeing this film?
yeah. I think for me, I hope that audiences go away with with questions, but with questions that tend to lean more towards the empathy element of it. Of okay, so how do I navigate someone who is autistic that's with me? Like, what kind of questions should I ask? Or and this having this banking that kind of knowledge, as we do in everyday life, with ordinary things, everyday things. I feel like us as people, when we come out of watching a film, it's such an elated feeling. It's almost like church. You're there to see something new, to learn something new, and you want to go away with questions, but just like questions that you would ask. How the autistic community navigates spaces. What can I do in my daily life to support that, advocate for that, um, not take up space for them, but to advocate as a supporter for them. Give them the space and the room to navigate their lives. Um, I think audiences will. I think audiences will love the film. Genuinely, I feel like besides the fact that it's just it's about an autistic child, it's just about family, and a lot of families go through hard times, and coming through those obstacles makes you stronger, and makes you much more of a whole human. Um, yeah, so I feel like it's definitely going to be a great experience. A great experience for audience.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a great experience not only for the audience. I think it's going to be a great experience for you. And for any of you film festivals out there watching or listening, you need to have the Golden Boy at your festival because this film needs to be seen by as many people as possible. It's that good. And ladies and gentlemen, the short film The Golden Boy is a story of love and patience, and yes, a bit of faith too. See, we live in a world where millions of children and young people are going unnoticed. Silence isn't always golden, but in The Golden Boy, there's an autistic child who is nonverbal until his older sister takes the incentive to help him. Now, every neurodivergent has the capability to communicate. Look, Helen Keller was both blind and deaf and communicated with the outside world. The Bible says something so profound that we need to understand that it lives in us and in our world today. The Lord takes the foolish things of this world to confound the wise, and he takes the weak things of this world to confound the strong. The Golden Boy shows us that all things are possible. Look, a bamboo tree seed doesn't break ground until it's 5 years old, and then it shoots to over 9 feet tall. Michael breaks through in this film, so for every parent who sees this film, never, never give up hope. Just keep watering. And with those who are autistic and or neurodivergent, we need to have the patience, the empathy, the grace, and the compassion to help them grow. Growth doesn't come overnight, but miracles still do. The Golden Boy is a film filled with hope, faith, and love, and it's also filled with tenacity and perseverance. A beautiful film, a beautiful story, and this film, as I said before, is going to win many awards in the months to come. I want to thank you, Elizabeth, for sharing your film and your insights with us today.
Thank you. No, thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Oh, it is wonderful. And when this film becomes award winning, which I know it will, you got to come back.
Of course, of course. If you have me, I might be a bit busy. I don't know.
Hey, I can wait because I want to see you as busy as possible with this film and with the excellent work that you did with the Golden Boy. I can't wait to see what you direct next.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you can catch all of the replays of our interviews with the top film directors, producers, and screenwriters and actors, and more on Bond on Cinema. We're also available on YouTube and a dozen audio platforms as well, such as iTunes and Spotify. I want to thank you for watching and listening. And as for me, I'll either see you at the movies or from the red carpet.